Hello everyone and welcome back to another video with On Point Politics, and today we are going to be looking at the electoral college map and where it stands right now for the 2024 presidential election. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you want more content just like this. And so going into the 2024 cycle, Donald Trump just selected Vance as his running mate for the 2024 presidential election. Biden and Harris are expected to run against this ticket, and we should be expecting a Vance and Harris debate sometime in the next month. And we are also having a debate between Trump and Biden at some point in September. Now, here's something very fascinating I want you guys to understand. There is not a lot of post-polling for the unfortunate assassination attempt on President Trump. There's not a lot post-VP pick or RNC, but all these things in the past for previous candidates have boosted their approval and numbers. I mean, Ronald Reagan's approval rating went up 22 points after an assassination attempt. You also had candidates on both sides of the nomination process basically go up after their party convention and their VP pick. And so that's definitely going to be a big deal because he's going to be able to actually use all three events to boost at the same time. And the thing is, all of these things happened within 48 hours. So all of the new polling data is going to factor in. VP picks usually help a candidate gain a point or two in the polling aggregate. The RNC boosts a candidate like a few points, maybe like 2 to 3. And an assassination attempt, I mean, with Trump, it may be different. It may not be a huge increase. And I believe this is actually the first time that an assassination attempt has been done on a president while they were campaigning. If I actually am thinking about it right now. And so we've never seen the actual approval rating of a president actually go up because of this during a campaign before. So this is going to be something new, but usually when incumbent presidents, you know, have an assassination attempt, it tends to boost their approval rating. And we really don't have new national polling data or a lot of new state data for this, but clearly Donald Trump and Vance are on track to have a really good election. I have an election model that I put together that looks at the Biden and Harris approval rating, or at least the Biden administration's approval rating in every single state individually. Instead of having a national approval rating, I'm doing it per state individually. You also see here that we have the national popular vote average from RCP and the civics differential in their approvals. Right now, Trump has a 41% approval rating. Joe Biden has a 35% approval rating on civics. So there is a 6-point difference in their favorables, and that's why you get the map that you see right here. At least the margins that we have. Donald Trump is projected to win by 9.3% in the national popular vote. Even John King, as of yesterday, was on the magic wall talking about how Trump possibly could get upwards of 330 electoral votes due to panic Democrats. That's basically what he was talking about. So there definitely is a really big deal when it comes to this. And for the safe Republican states, we have Idaho, Utah, Wyoming, Montana, the Dakotas, all of Nebraska except the 2nd congressional district. We have the state of Kansas coming in there as safe. Alaska. We have Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, Missouri, Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, Kentucky, Indiana, West Virginia, South Carolina, and Maine's 2nd congressional district, all being safe states. We also have Iowa at 21 points for the former president and Vance. We have 22 points at for Vance and Donald Trump, which is very fascinating. They're seeing really large victories in those states. Texas, a 20-point win, and Florida would also be a 20-point win exactly alongside Texas. As of right now, these states, especially Texas and Florida, have a large Hispanic population. So these states, Trump gaining with Hispanic voters is definitely going to push those states hard to the right, as well as gaining with moderates and independents. Iowa and Ohio are continuing to trend to the right every single cycle, so I am not surprised to see Iowa and Ohio move to the right of the nation as well. What's also really fascinating about this is that Donald Trump has been gaining with white working class voters over the past few years, so I'm not surprised to see something like this whatsoever. Now, for the safe Democrat states, we only have a few. We have DC at a 74-point margin for Biden and Harris. You have Maryland coming in here at 24 points. Massachusetts at 26 points. We have the state of Vermont at a 28-point victory for incumbent President Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Those are kind of weak margins in those states, considering that Joe Biden actually won all of these states by pretty much almost over 30 points last cycle. So those are definitely underperformances in some of those states, sometimes even greater than the actual shift nationally, which is pretty insane to see there. Now, looking at the likely Republican states, we have Wisconsin at around 11 points for Donald Trump. A lot of the recent polling actually has the former president up there by like 4 to 6 points, depending on what poll you're looking at. For example, I believe a Redfield Strategies poll actually put out like a Trump +5 poll, and if you apply that 7 to 8 point error that you usually get in election cycles, you get around an 11 to 13 point victory in Wisconsin. So it is not that far off. In the state of Michigan, the model has him winning it by 10 percentage points. Pennsylvania is actually the largest victory out of the whole Rust Belt. It's actually a 12-point win. And what's very fascinating about this, state as a whole is that there was a poll from the New York Times that had Trump up 3 with third-party candidates. And if you actually look at the 2020 sample, they overestimated Biden by, I believe, a couple points. It had Biden up basically like 8 points in the sample. That's a 7-point miss. So if you apply that to the poll to adjust for an error, you basically get a Trump +10 margin, which is very similar to that in the state of Pennsylvania. So even polling data, looking at cross-examining everything the way it should be done, you see that the former president has these large victories coming ahead in the Rust Belt. And I believe that him picking Vance is definitely a sign that he's extremely confident in an election victory. Vance only really solidifies his base in the Rust Belt and doesn't really help him expand in states like New York, Connecticut, Rhode Island, to a certain extent that Youngkin, would have probably done, or at least Zeldin would have done. But it shows that Trump is confident, that the campaign is confident in a landslide victory. The fact that they picked J.D. Vance, which arguably was the most anti-establishment pick out of any of the picks they could have made. If we look at North Carolina, 14.6 percentage points for the former president as of right now. Georgia, 12.4%. Just these large victories. Arizona, 11.5 points for Donald Trump. We actually got an 11+ poll out of the state of Arizona recently. In the state of Nevada, we have a 14-point margin out of the state. And a New York Times poll recently, their last poll actually had Trump up 14 points there. So again, it's not to show you, okay, that's the only poll I'm going to point to. But clearly, these results that I'm showing you right now are statistically viable after the modeling calculates them out. And we look at, Nebraska second. That is a likely margin of victory there. 8-point victory, just huge for the former president. Now, if you look at Joe Biden in some of these states, California, 13-point victory. Yes, it is an under a 15-point win. The reason for this being is that Trump is gaining with Asian voters by a pretty rapid amount. And so that's why you're seeing that there. State of Hawaii is coming in at just 8 points for Joe Biden. And just to let you guys know, there was a +8 poll for Joe Biden out of the state of Hawaii with third-party candidates included. And so this is to show you guys that this is not, an impossible scenario to happen. A lot of polling data, or at least the one poll out of the state, is indicating that that could actually happen. If we look, for example, at Washington, we could put that in the likely column at around 6.6 percentage points for Joe Biden. Connecticut coming in for the president Joe Biden, Kamala Harris by 10 points. Delaware at just 7 points for Joe Biden. Rhode Island at 11 points as of right now. We also have, believe it or not, if we actually look, the state of New York out of all states is just an 8-point victory on here, and Maine's first is a 12-point win for Joe Biden on the map. So you see that there is not a lot of likely states for him either. All of these states that are likely and safe right now are actually all safe states in the 2020 presidential election. You see Washington was safe, California, Hawaii was safe, Delaware, New Jersey, Connecticut, Rhode Island were all safe, New York was safe. So the fact that all of his, likely states were once safe states in the previous election is a really bad sign for incoming President Joe Biden and his re-election bid. You also, guys, have got to understand, guys, that former President Trump, his approval rating has kind of maintained or gone down a little bit for the most part. But Joe Biden's approval rating has tanked quite a bit in certain states, even being down, 20 to 30 points in some of the swing states. That's why you see these really, appalling margins in some of these states as of right now. Even like Arizona, his approval rating is like -16. It is actually abysmal how bad some of the polling is in the state of Arizona as of right now. Now, if we look at the lean Democrat states, we have Oregon at just 4.2 percentage points for Joe Biden. We have Colorado at 4.2 percentage points for Joe Biden. A lot of polling actually indicates that this is a really close race. Even Democrat internals have it as a 2-point victory. If we look at Illinois, actually, it is also a 2-point victory as well. And just to give you guys an idea, the last poll in the state of Illinois was not even conducted since like October of 2023. It's been literally almost an entire year since the last poll in Illinois was conducted, and this is before any of the crazy events that have happened this year. And Donald Trump's lead in October 2023 was basically non-existent. There wasn't even polling averages yet, essentially, for the 5-way race. I believe Joe Biden was still kind of, in reach of leading Donald Trump, there. So that is very fascinating as well. But clearly there needs to be a new poll done there, because based out of the modeling of the state, it does show a closer than expected race. New Jersey, just a 2.3 percentage point victory for Joe Biden in the state of New Jersey. Very, very close margins there. Now, New Mexico, for the lean Republican states, is a 3.6 percentage point win. Hispanics are a decent part of the electorate there, but if Donald Trump can do good enough with white voters in that state, he is going to more than likely win it by 2 to 3 points. Even when you model out all of the disapproval ratings on civics, so like if you break it down by category, if you model that out, it actually has Donald Trump also winning it by 2 to 3 points as well. When you break down the difference in their approval ratings by certain categories like race, education, and age, it definitely shows you a 2 to 3 point victory for Trump in the state of New Mexico, and we have a 3.6 percentage point win out of that state as of right now. When you're looking at a state like Virginia, 2.4%, a poll just came out of the university in Virginia that has Donald Trump up there by 3 points, and their poll from January was Biden +6. Our poll has Biden up only 3 points in the state, and the New York Times / Siena College poll only has Biden up 2 when you factor in third parties. And when you look at their sample, it's actually a Biden +14 sample. So if you were to shift that to be more accurate, you would actually get a Donald Trump victory in the state of Virginia based off of that alone. So that's also a really fascinating thing to look at there. Even in the state of Minnesota, we have a 2.3 percentage point win. We've actually had polling there from Emerson that shows Donald Trump up there. New Hampshire right now is a tilt Republican margin. It is the closest state on the map, believe it or not. And this is not surprising to me, because the latest poll has Donald Trump up 2 points. And that poll was very accurate in 2020. That poll had Biden up 8 points in October of 2020. Biden ended up winning by 7. Their poll before had Biden up 10 sometime earlier this year, and now they have Trump up 2 in the state. So the state's definitely in question of being competitive. Now, it is trending to the left, but since the national environment is getting so Republican, that is definitely a big reason why that would be the case for it to flip. And Maine at large is just a single point victory for Donald Trump. You could argue third-party candidates help Donald Trump in the state of Maine at large, despite it trending heavily to the left as of right now. And so basically, this is where the Electoral College stands. Donald Trump is at 347 Electoral College votes with Vance, and Biden and Harris being at 191 Electoral College votes. Donald Trump, if he gains from the assassination attempt by a lot, the RNC and the VP pick all at the same time, which have historically helped him and other candidates, regardless of party, gain in polling data, he may be able to go up to about a 7 or 8 point lead in the RCP aggregate. And that would put states like Illinois, New Jersey, Colorado, Oregon in the competitive category. At that point, the former president, if he were actually able to flip some of these states, he would basically get upwards of 398 Electoral College votes in this election, which would actually be a really major development for Republicans. And this would be a good thing for Vance, because Donald Trump picked Vance as the heir apparent for the MAGA movement. He said for a while that's what he wanted his VP pick to be. And if Vance delivers a victory with Trump like this, it's just going to give Vance, a very high status in the electoral world, as well as in electoral politics in general. He's going to have a very high electoral standing if he does win a big landslide like this. Now, correlating results from vice presidency to the presidency is not 100% way to do it, but if Donald Trump wins big this time after having 2 close elections with Vance on the ticket, he may partially get some credit for that. Whether he actually actually caused it or not. And so if he were to run in 2028, he would actually perform somewhat decent, or at least have the ability to perform decent in the Rust Belt, which I believe he'd probably end up winning in 28 if he were to run anyway. And so if you guys did enjoy the video, please make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you want more content just like this. And I will see you guys in the next video.